Interview number 3, Paul's story, resources without support. It will then show a video of Paul in his interview. Paul identifies as Black with the pronouns he, him, his. Paul is wearing a light colored shirt with a badge on the pocket. There is a wooden shutter screen behind him.
Well, thanks so much for joining us for Global Accessibility Awareness Day and being so willing to talk about your experience as a person of color who also lives with a disability. I'd like you to introduce yourself, and if you want to talk a little bit about what you do for a living and also what your cultural and disability background is.
Okay, well, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to come and speak. Well, I was born in Jamaica and born with a condition called retinoblastoma, and it wasn't caught right away when I was there. So through my grandmother being a nurse and working in America and coming back and forth to the island, she realized that something was not too right with my eyes, the color of it. So when the tumor, which is retinoblastoma, is a cancer of the eyes, got large enough that they could see it, the doctors in Jamaica basically said that there's nothing that they could really do for me except take the eyes out, and I would most likely die. Um, my grandma wasn't going to take that as, as an option. So I was sponsored to come with my brothers and sisters and my mom to America to get treatment at Wills Eye Hospital. So I came to the United States around the age of 2.
Was that here in the United States?
Yes, I was here in
Okay.
Jersey. We moved to Camden,
Okay.
New Jersey. So coming here first, we were a nice, happy family, everything like that. And then my life sort of took a change, a turn for the change, a turn for the worse. Um, we fell into hard times. My mom became addicted to drugs, and then our lives sort of went downhill from there, being evicted from multiple houses. I went to stay with my grandmother, who was a very religious person. I liked it there, but as any kid would, you sort of want to go with your mom, right? So I
Sure.
would go back to my mom's house, or the house that she was currently in, and want to stay there, but it just wasn't a very safe environment for a kid. I was the last one to sort of get out of there. My other siblings sort of left to go live with friends and things like that. So we went from a good lifestyle to a very poor um, lifestyle. No no food, houses with no water, no electricity.
Mhm.
But I always had my grandmother and other family members that I could go to have a safe place. And my life really took a change for the better. One day watching Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, he did a segment on schools for the blind. And I thought it was awesome. And I thought that, hey, I want to go to a school for the blind and live there. I thought living at a school was sort of cool, before
Uh-huh.
Harry Potter time, Hogwarts. It wasn't invented yet, but
Sure.
it's sort of, kid has
Yeah.
that dream. So I spoke with my visually impaired teacher, and they said, hey, there's a school in Philadelphia, public school for the blind. We could probably get you in there. You could attend the public school that's housed there, but stay in the dorms. And I was like, okay, let's try this out, right? I'm like, wow. My mind was absolutely blown. And I attended public school with, let's say like people of like different races, but I never lived with people with this different races.
Mhm.
So when I got to the dorm here, I had workers that were black and Spanish, but a lot of the kids were Caucasian, and from different levels or different economic backgrounds. Kids that had parents that were, business people, or kids that were coming from just local Philadelphia there that, were middle class. Having to take this in,
Right.
um, and sort of shaped who I am now because I have all those experiences to sort of look back to. Um,
You
so
were
I
really submersed in diversity at a young age.
yeah, from a young age and having to learn to interact with different disabilities.
Then after you left the school, where was high school for you?
I miraculously I happened to be a good student.
Mhm.
um, you know, you're not getting that sort of like onus on education from within my family. Like the onus on education wasn't there, but from this person, from EMA, and from the workers within the dorms, you know, education was the way I saw to get out of my situation. So I got into Lawrenceville Prep, which is a private prep school here in New Jersey. Um, and when I got there, um, this is probably one of my most regrets in my life is not staying there. Um, but it was such a big culture shock to me. Again, coming from being a inner city kid, being plopped down into this mecca of rich individuals was just a shock to me, where kids had checkbooks and credit cards, and I'm just like, wow. Um, I joined the wrestling team there. I did well. I did well academically. I did well socially because I was always able to sort of float in between groups. Um, but I just didn't have the support. I didn't have that family support to sort of like, you know, keep me lifted, keep me sort of grounded or, focused on the work and not necessarily comparing what I had to what these other kids around me had and really bringing the gap within, society right to my face every day, So that was sort of a big hit to me. Um, so just mentally, I couldn't stay. I wanted to go back to Philadelphia where my friends were. I wanted to go back to regular school. But in
Mhm.
hindsight, I should have stayed there because I could have had, better opportunities just by saying that I graduated from there.
When you have come from um, a situation that has been harder, and you try to better yourself, I think without support that can be really, really difficult.
Very,
So
very. It's one
yeah.
experience there that sticks out in my mind. It was our big wrestling match. It was, Thanksgiving, just before Thanksgiving break. It was a
Mhm.
huge deal, sort of like our homecoming thing. And I was wrestling that night. The place was packed, and my family was supposed to be coming to pick me up, but also I wanted them to come to to watch me wrestle. And
Sure.
so,
Right.
yeah, through the whole day, everyone's family is there on campus. I'm getting a lot of attention. You know, um,
Mhm.
so I get there on my match. My family's still not there yet. In my head, well, maybe they're up in that crowd. So
Right.
I get on the mat. Um, I had this move that I used to do like really quick to end the match really fast, and it worked this time. And I'm pinning the guy, and like I'm just everything goes silent, and I have the guy pinned, and I just hear the referee counting, and then I hear the slap on the mat. I win, and then I stand up, and it's just deafening loud, like little me, center of attention, like it's just
Uh-huh.
deafening loud. And
Mhm.
then I feel a tug on my hand, and there's like people congratulating me. I feel a tug on my hand. It's my older brother and my older sister saying, "Yeah, come on, we're here to pick you. I'm to take you." And like, did you see my thing? Like, oh no, we just came in now. Come on, let's go. And like, my team
Oh
wanted me to
man.
stay, and like, it was supposed to be a big party afterwards.
Oh
And it's
man.
just like getting taken out, put in the car, and driven back home. And it's like,
Right.
like nothing. My big moment, they weren't there for it, and then they came and took me out of it. You know,
Yeah.
so that sticks in my head.
But I know that you've got your vocation afterwards really put you in a position of being able to see how other kids with disabilities, uh, in families that were trying to support these kids. And when we had these preliminary planning discussions for this event, you were the person that brought up resources and how important resources are to enable people to overcome gaps that are often highlighted by differences in race and differences in ability. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that.
Sure. So one of my jobs after college was as an assistive technology trainer, and with that job, I got to travel around northern New Jersey here and train individuals with different levels of visual impairment, and also do assessments of equipment for them, and also people that might have that had hearing problems. Um, and these clients ranged from students in school to adults that are just coming out of folk rehab, to people that are wanting to learn how to use technology so they can get a job. So a wide range um, of people, ages, and backgrounds. A typical day could take me from a condo in a nice town here called Hoboken to the projects down in Newark within the same day.
Wow.
Very mentally draining, just from an environmental standpoint of having to teach someone um, when you're walking past a memorial to someone who was just murdered the night before,
Mm-hmm.
um, to encountering a doorman and saying, go right up, and waiting in like a luxury lounge for your client to let you into their apartment.
Right.
But why, by interacting with a lot of these people, you tend to see the lack of distribution of resources that are giving to them based on where they are. Seen it where, and I'm gonna be frank, because if anybody watches this, they can sort of figure out, where I am and where they would be getting these resources from. So I'm not worried about making any more enemies. But you could see that, depending on where you were, you wouldn't have the good stuff. I had clients where the keyboard, like the keys were falling off the keyboard and they couldn't get a new one. And I would go to another house of a person that was uh, that was Caucasian and upper class, and they would have boxes of the newest stuff, and they wouldn't even open it because they didn't necessarily need it. And even my own personal experience, I just got a job after being unemployed for a while, after moving from Philadelphia up here, to be with my wife, and trying to find employment. I got a job down in Trenton, with the Council on Developmental Disabilities. So I needed some upgrade of equipment, and it was a struggle for me to get the equipment that I needed. Although all I needed was, the JAWS software and a Braille display. It really took a struggle for me to just sort of plead my case to why I needed it, and how quickly I needed it, because I was starting work like within like the next 2 weeks or so. And what it took was the director at that time, uh, seeing and or hearing from his boss, who was a person that was higher up in the state government of the agency that I was under, seeing me make a speech at an event and speaking about me, um, you know, to him, and then that sort of letter that I was sending back and forth to try to advocate for myself happened to go across his desk, and his intervention got me what I need to do my job. Now, if I wasn't in that position, or in those circles at that time, I would have been stuck like a lot of the clients are that don't have that voice or have that sort of backing to get the equipment to be able to do their job. So like those discrepancies really came glaringly obvious to me traveling around.
Jessica said something very similar, and we've witnessed that here with some of our staff at WeCo who work with state agencies. It's been astounding to me at the level of justification. We had a person of color who works for us, who was receiving a laptop and was told that they could only use the laptop for certain things and it couldn't be their work with us. And we weren't really sure what that was about, but
Right.
she had to advocate for herself to say, this is going to be my laptop. You say it's going to be my property. I can use it in whatever function I deem that is going to bring me gainful employment. That is not your choice. So I think that's something that the public, by and large, if you don't have someone in your life who lives with a disability, or you don't live with one and you're not a person of color, you assume that these resources are out there and available and that people receive them. But it's very interesting the kind of games that are played around that and assumptions that are made about people, particularly people of color who live with disabilities.
Right.
Can you speak a little bit more to that?
Yeah, I can give you another example of another job I was in. I was a coordinator of a program and I was in charge of doing outreach. And I was discouraged to do outreach within the inner city communities, where as me and my partner at the time wanted to reach out to these, inner city groups, the churches, the child care centers, to try to get parents of people with disabilities to come into this program that was to teach them how to be leaders within accessibility and to interact with, politicians and maybe even start their own organizations. And, you know, sort of bumped heads with my higher up at that time, um, because we weren't going to reach out to these people because they were the ones that were being overlooked. The outreach or the people attending these programs in the past were tended to be people of influence or status, and it got to a point where I had two individuals of color that attended my program, and the director at the time, who's no longer there, um, like made a statement. Like she followed them to the bathroom and then came back and made a statement that keep an eye on those two. Those two are going to be trouble. Like for no apparent like nothing. Like no 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 grounds for it at all, except that
Right.
they were two people of color. And at this program, they would reimburse you for your travel and for your childcare. And,
Mhm.
they wanted to challenge their legitimate childcare reimbursement claims because they had an older sibling that was the person with the disability, and they wanted to pay a family member to stay with him while they came to the program, which is totally, feasible. But they wanted me to tell them that, question them more about it and tell them they couldn't. And I was like, I'm not doing that. I'm processing their thing because you don't believe them or you think they're lying is just weird to me. Where I had another, Caucasian participant that submitted some other receipts for some other things that I thought was a little bit more suspicious, but
Mhm.
it processed through with not even a wink, So I was just like, wow, like institutionalized racism is real.